Welcome, everyone, to a very special episode. Today, we're not just talking about healing, we're talking about a path born from digital chaos, ancient wisdom, and one man's journey through the noise of the modern world. Mike, creator of Social Network Shaman and the Silver Crow Method. Welcome.
Thank you. And this story begins in a place most people probably don't expect. So, yeah, maybe I should just
So,
start from, yeah.
let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
Where did this
So
all come from?
there was two things. So initially this started off as doctoral research in me trying to find out if social networks were good or bad for companies. The second thing was when I was compiling that research. I came to the conclusion that asking the question of why are people suffering more in a world full of technology, that's actually meant to connect us. When you think about
Mhm.
social media, the social aspect means we connect with different people, and it's supposed to be something that's more positive rather than negative. And when I started to look at the research and what was going on throughout the world with all these different people digesting a lot of services in social media, um, I watched these social platforms start to evolve into something that I'm not quite sure they were supposed to go, or the direction they were supposed to go into. And when I looked at these different social media platforms, I also took a look at the technology that was used in that. So remember, I come originally from the cybersecurity space. So for me, it's always thinking about the technology of things and how do we protect ourselves against hackers and negative types of stuff like that of people breaking into systems. So I started to look at the technology and found out that social media platforms were using AI models. And these models were evolving a lot faster than I think most people were comfortable with. And
Mhm.
what they basically learned wasn't really what I would consider wisdom. It was more of around manipulation, controversy, and division, and creating that because those are the things that actually made people click on specific buttons. So,
Right.
yeah.
This isn't something that you just observed from the outside.
Yeah, right. So it's something that I observed from the inside. So some of the things that I saw in the research were that negativity tends to spread a lot faster than truth does. That these algorithms or the technology of social media, they reward emotional instability because these are the things that elicit a response. So the best way to get someone to click on a button seems to be that we put them into an emotional state, and once people are in an emotional state like fear, uncertainty, doubt, or anger or hostility, they tend to click on the links more than if they are stable or if they are in a loving environment or a positive environment. So these AI models basically found that out fairly quickly, and as they evolved, that was some of the stuff that they were trying to do. They were trying to get us to sink into an emotional state, which over time makes these people or us in general a lot more unstable. So we have depression, we have anxiety, we are basically coming to the conclusion that we're not in a happy mood, and people start to ask themselves why. The other thing is when we take a look at social media, some of the things that are prevalent there, like cyberbullying and mobbing, they are much more amplified with machine learning because it wants this emotional response. It wants to get us to that state where we click on something and we digest information. And as we start to digest information that's fake or false or manufactured or manipulative in nature, it also creates what I call an erosion of identity and boundaries. So, what is normal for us to digest? What is our actual identity? What are the things that we believe in? These types of things. So, you know, they weren't just scrolling, they were actually
Mhm.
being reshaped by the information that they were digesting. And that was the primary reason why I started the Social Network Shaman. That's why it was born. It wasn't really meant to
Wow.
be a brand, it was supposed to be a response to the stuff that we saw happen.
That's so insightful. So, where does the shaman part come into all of this?
So basically, once I found out that these things affected me, and that I was surrounded by these different types of distortions long enough, I noticed that instincts started to dull, emotions started to flare up, and you have a sense that yourself kind of wavers or gets lost in all the noise. And I felt that
Mhm.
collapse, that emotional fog set up into me. And it was exhausting. It was draining. So it forced me to ask the question, what fights an algorithm? And
Hmm.
surprisingly, the answer wasn't really in technology. And this is where Stoicism and shamanic practices come into the picture. So um, it came back like an echo, basically. So I grew up around different stories like we all did, and symbols from, many different cultures, flying
Mhm.
around throughout the world and going to different countries. And one day I just realized that we're actually living in a state of psychological warfare. And that's not an over dramatization, it's reality. So the thing about psychological warfare is it's not something new. Manipulation is also nothing new. And people in ancient times, they already fought these battles before. Back then, they didn't have screens and they didn't have algorithms. So that led me to Stoicism and shamanism. So in Stoicism, that basically gave me the emotional grounding. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most famous people that were associated with Stoicism. There were others during Greek and Roman times that basically worked with Stoicism. But it basically meant that you tried to achieve what they called inner clarity. And the way that you did that was you tried to resist any type of manipulation from anything outside of yourself. So what they taught was basically controlling your emotions in a way, shape, or form by coming to a conclusion that you can only influence yourself and the way you react to any given situation. And that means that the ability to observe something rather than to react to a situation makes a lot more sense. When you observe something and you don't necessarily react in an emotional way, it gives you a lot more control over yourself and the situation. And that's one of the big primary focuses of Stoicism that I thought was very appealing, especially in, this type of psychological warfare cycle that we're in. So when I take a look at the shamanic wisdom part of this, that taught me more about energetic boundaries. So how do I stop this negativity from affecting me? How do I recognize that? Also teaching me about intuitive protection. So what are things like agreements? How do they shape the way I see reality? And what are the things that I accept through these agreements and what I don't? But also, more importantly, how do I assess how and shape how others treat me? Then lastly, that sense of sacred identity. So knowing my value and knowing who I am. So Stoicism basically strengthens the mind and limits the amount of emotional reactions that we have to a situation and gives us that clarity. And the shamanic practice basically strengthens the soul and more of like the mental health aspects. So finding out where that boundary is. And together they became the first two pillars of what I would later call the Silver Crow method.
That's amazing. Just that sovereignty piece
Hmm.
with the stoicism is amazing. So many
Mm.
people need that for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
Yeah.
so most people only focus on their mental wellness, but you've also added more physical as well to this.
Right. Yeah. And that's another interesting part. So when we're dealing with this type of information and the way the information spreads with algorithms and AI on electronic platforms, I actually realized that people weren't just mentally overwhelmed. Their entire nervous systems were collapsing because they were so overloaded with all this information
Mm-hmm.
that was going on. And that led me to another piece, auricular therapy. So,
Mm-hmm.
auricular therapy is basically the idea that the ear is a map of the body's emotional and neurological responses. So, you see in TCM, which that is a part of traditional Chinese medicine, they work with meridians that basically control everything throughout the body. And if you have a dis-ease or you're not in ease, you're not relaxing, it typically means that something in the body is either overreacting to something, overcompensating, or some of the organs in the body because we're not eating right, because we're not drinking the right things. For instance, if we don't drink certain teas that help us to cope with, with stress mechanisms, these are just as important as focusing on the mental piece and not being emotional. So that combination of things you can actually see on the ear and on different parts of the body, like the hands and also the feet.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go into more detail about that, there are ear points that can reduce anxiety. They're points for panic, for depression, for nervous irritation. And they also focus in on trauma-based calming techniques that are also used with people that have not only disabilities or mental issues that they deal with. In a lot of cases, this helps them out, and severe trauma. But it also helps people that are dependent on different types of drugs and stuff like that. There's a lot of different therapies out there that use ear acupuncture to actually help people move away from these dependencies to drugs and other things, right? So it complements the stoic emotional control in that it gives us an actual tool with TCM to control the autonomic responses of the body through targeting points from the vagus nerve, which goes along the side of each part of the head. And that basically controls a lot of the different organs in the body. So, and that was the missing piece. So I was looking for the stoic piece was how do we control our emotions and how do we look at from the inside out? I was looking at the shamanic practices for finding out, okay, well, what are our trigger points and how do we find out what those trigger points are and how do we resolve those or the trauma? And then this piece was basically what can we use in the human body from an academic and scientific perspective that we know works? I mean, TCM has been around for thousands of years.
Yes.
To turn that into what I call a needed language of healing.
Wow. And then you have your musical background as well that you brought into this.
Yeah, and that was the last of the missing pieces. So with the auricular therapy, we had the body points. We had the responses in the nervous system. With the stoicism, we had looking from the inside out and knowing our own value without depending on external factors. From the shamanic piece, we thought about, okay, well, what are the things that we've learned in our past in these agreements that we can basically change to serve us better? And the last piece of that is, well, what about music? So as a musician, you know, sometimes when you listen to a song, if it has like a certain tune to it, some songs, they resonate with you more than others. And it turns out that certain chords like D major, D minor, B minor, B major, and specific chords like that, they actually create something too. So you have the nervous system response from TCM, but you also have the nervous system response from chords, from music, from the frequencies that these music chords actually do. And that's when I started to think about, well, okay, well, let's take the music background. Let's take a look if there's actually something to this. So music was always an honest energy that I've known. And I started to realize that certain frequencies calm the mind more than others. So if I know that certain chords calm me, and other people like to listen to these songs that I have on SoundCloud and Apple and in other platforms, there's some songs that are like D minor, D major, where people listen to these songs a lot more. And I'm not just talking about like maybe 100 or 200. I'm talking about thousands of people. So for instance, when I create a music song that has D minor, D major, the difference between that and a song that I create with A or B is like almost 300%. So one song gets maybe 200 listeners. Another song gets like 3,500, 4,000, 5,000
Wow.
listeners. It's a difference.
That's significant. Yeah.
And as a musician, like, okay, well, what songs are cool? What do people listen to? And why do they listen to them? And it turns out that the academic research that I did to this as well, it actually states that certain chords can actually create these responses in people. It speaks to people more than other chords do. So certain patterns stabilize the body and certain harmonies open up that emotional release. So some of the things that I thought about after finding that out was, well, you know, what are the minor chords? They reflect like internal struggles. What are the specific types of tunings and frequencies that can reduce stress? Like, you know, there's different types of resonances and frequencies that you can use, binaural beats, all kinds of stuff like that. And how can the rhythm be used to stabilize breathing? For instance, in shamanic journey, we know that the drum beats at around 100 beats per minute mimics the heartbeat, which makes it easier for people to concentrate. So if you think that you're meditating and there's certain music, you know, songs that you like to listen to that bring you into a state where you can relax. The same thing applies to these 100 beats per minute with shamanic drums. And there's some that have more bass to them, some that are a little bit more shallow. Even there's a difference. I mean, I'm more of like a bassy type of drum beat, and I tend to slow it down to around 90 beats per minute. And when I work with different people, those are the beats that resonate with them the most. So a little bit more bass to the drums and a little bit slower, and they relax. You don't need any medicine. You don't need anything else. You just beat the drum to a certain frequency or to a certain beats per minute, and people start to relax. So, yeah, so that soundscape or that type of music layer that can create an inner mirror that can help you to resolve a lot of different issues that you have. So that combination is really interesting.
That
So I
is
started,
amazing.
yeah. So I started building sound-based healing experiences too, not just songs, but more like sonic medicine. And that
Hmm.
became the third pillar of that method.
Wow. So, where does the silver crow appear in all of this?
Yeah. So that's the mythic part. Um, there's different types of animals or animal spirits that are important in different cultures. Whether it's the Celtic culture, the raven is important for Odin, the messenger. In some of the Native American groups, the eagle, the crow, and also the hawk are important because they're also messengers that give us important information. So across different cultures, the crow is seen as a messenger. And I know a lot of people think the crow is the trickster and this and that. I mean, crows are very highly intelligent and they kind of have a bad rap. So they are the messenger. They're also considered to be a watcher of things that are going on in the world, shapeshifters or changing to match different situations to help people and guide people through different difficult situations. And then they basically act as a guide between different worlds. But in my journey, it became something more. So it became that symbol of returning to self rather than being lost in all the noise. So for me, the silver crow represents the part of you that survives distortion, that remembers your inner truth and
Oh,
sees through manipulation, and the part of you that returns home, basically. It
that's
became the perfect
beautiful.
symbol. Yeah, it became the perfect symbol for the path.
I love that. That's amazing. Um, so how would you describe or explain the silver crow method without giving away any of your secrets?
That's a difficult one. So let me try to attempt that. So if we take a look at the Stoic mind, that teaches us about emotional clarity and sovereignty of self. When we talk about the practice of shamanic energy or healing, it teaches us about boundaries, creating them and recognizing them and respecting them, intuition, trusting what our body tells us, and also the agreements that form how we understand reality. When we take a look at things like auricular therapy, it talks about somatic resets. So, auricular therapy, how to basically work with the nervous system and how to ground, not only through auricular therapy and music, but also through, grounding practices, whether it's Tai Chi Qigong, whether it's yoga. There's a lot of different natural medicines out there that people naturally gravitate to that help us. And then the last piece is that sonic medicine, the frequencies and the harmonics and resonances that we can use to basically help us to heal and to change, move away from a situation where we're in fight or flight and go back to a situation where we're relaxed, where we are stoic in nature. That means we're looking from the inside out and we're not letting things, especially social media and electronic types of information, manipulate us and change our sense of reality. We take back our sovereignty and we protect ourselves. So it's a way back to yourself, not by escaping life or the new technology that's out there. That's not what I'm saying, but by
Mm-hmm.
seeing more clearly and standing in your own coherence of what the world is and what's going on around you.
So, for those who are listening, what would be the first step to bring in some of these elements or all of these elements?
Right. So I think the first thing is just noticing the noise that's around us. What are the things that detract or take away our attention? noticing what things take energy away from us or steal energy from you. Noticing those things that actually ground us, what specific songs, what, breath techniques, or sports, or going to the gym, specific movements. What are the things that actually, ground us, or walking in nature? The Silver Crow method starts with that awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest kind of just unfolds slowly and naturally. And that's the very important piece of this. We're not trying to force, or I'm not trying to force people to have one specific point of view or to believe everything that I tell them to believe just because I'm saying it, but it unfolds naturally, the way things are supposed to work with natural medicine, where you come to your own conclusions. And that's, I think, a big misconception about, shamanic healing and different types of natural medicines, is that you need someone else to do that. So the person that works with you, in my case, it's me. I'm more of someone that follows and has the honor and privilege to help guide someone or mentor someone down that path. Ultimately, the healing and the things associated with that you do yourself. You just need someone to help you and take your hand and lead you down the right path that was meant for you. So, the rest unfolds slowly and naturally. You return to the person that you were before the world told you who you were supposed to be. And that's another thing, when we talk about social media, you see all these pictures of people that have these perfect lives. And
Mm-hmm.
then a short time later, you see all these different stories of people that have committed suicide, these people who we thought had perfect lives and had everything going for them. And then suddenly they are no longer with us. And that's something that I want to stop. I don't want that to happen for other people. So, yeah.
Like, this is so beautiful. And I definitely resonate with all of these things that you're speaking about for natural wellness. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners will be resonating with this as well. Um, you have a very powerful story, very powerful journey. And, for your work, for guiding people back to themselves, it is amazing. So, how would the listeners be able to get in touch with you? How would they be able to start the Silver Crow method?
Right. So, first off, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pretty much only the beginning. So, there's different things that we have out there. I think right now, what's relevant as a first step is we have a consultation session, or just like a talking session, trying to find out what are the things that we can help with. How can we bring people back to their center? What are one or two practices that we can concentrate on fairly quickly to get people back into their mode of normalcy? Getting rid of depression, anxiety, doing breath work, stuff like that. And these sessions, even within the consulting session or the discussion that we have, we already start to work on, is this path right for you? Are there things that you would like us to help you with and deal with? So email is definitely one of the easiest ways to reach out to me, and that's Mike at basically hackdevnet.com, or you can reach me at info or contact at socialnetworkshaman.com. There's different ways that you can reach me. So the website is also there, that you can take a look at the information and some of the practices. And we're in the process of building out our social media presence. So using it in a way, shape, or form that resonates with people, that is ethical, that doesn't take energy away. So we're looking at different aspects there, like, for instance, being more present on Facebook and on Instagram. I have an Instagram account, and I talk about a lot of the things that I do. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
things within the Silver Crow method are also, for instance, flying deer medicine is one specific piece where we talk about emotions, controlling those emotions, the heart. Another piece is physical mastery, where we talk about using breath work, Tai Chi, Qigong, and those different types of modalities to help people. So there's different things. We have something for everyone. Just reach out to us.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mike. It's been an honor getting to know you better. And the world needs more of this, more people like yourself helping others and offering these amazing programs to be able to move forward with their wellness.
Thank you. Very kind of you. And also, I wanted to point out the fact that you also have different teas that you also have and offer. I think that's important
Yes.
because I drink a lot of tea, and
Mm-hmm.
I moved away from drinking a lot of coffee to basically balancing my coffee with different teas. So I like the fact that you also do a lot with teas, and I can't stress how important that is to basically concentrate on different types of teas too that can help you relax, right? So
Yes,
thank you for that.
absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome. Well, thank you so much, Mike, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks, Melanie.
All right, bye.